Hey everybody, I'm Sales Comp Guy. I wanted to share with you today a few of the steps and as I like to say, the starting simple steps for developing your sales incentive plan. So this is a guide to walk you through the first sort of high level components of developing your sales incentive plan for the very first time. We have a need to develop a comp plan, and so let's say you need a sales plan. Um, the steps for that involve essentially going in and digging into your culture. That is defining your mission, your values, your purpose. Right, spend the time to do that because what we're looking for is an alignment to your organization. So when we have to develop a comp plan, we're assuming the person's not already on board. And if they are on board, it's still okay. But let's assume they've yet to be hired, because that'll probably be a little bit of an easier sentiment for us to look at, right? Like the order of operations would be get our house straight first, then bring in new bodies, right? But what we want to start with is culture. We want to really dig in on that. Then we want to make sure we understand the job content, the kind of who, what, where, when, why, and how of the job, right? This is where we develop a job description. And in that job description, this is where we're going to input the components of both like the knowledge, skills, abilities, education, experience that are required for the function, right? That's also where we put in the culture, right? Insert your culture and leverage it highly. The next steps are digging into a little bit of your budget, so you understand both your affordability and your objectives. Like, what is the target associated with what you and when I mean target, I mean the what does the person need to deliver, right, in order for your organization to be healthy and for that person to finance their own employment, right, which is the goal of sales, right? We want incremental, whether that's profit, revenue, or bookings, so that it kind of feeds the business in order to fund that of the employee that is being brought on board, right? So got to dig into your budget, make sure you understand these things. Then we're going to look to the market. We're going to look for different data points that kind of help us understand what it is that we can pay, or let's say marry the two a little bit. What we can pay is what the budget's telling us. What the actively pursuing a labor market or other competitors are paying is where what the market tells us. And sometimes we have to figure out how to bridge that gap, right? Which is why culture is something that is important for us to understand. It's like, can we find the people that align with us purposefully so that we can then bridge that gap, right? Because it's not always about money. That's the interesting thing about comp, right? We're talking about something that is purpose matters, culture matters, something that gives someone alignment on the reason I get up every day and go do that, right, matters more than money, right? You have to get to table stakes, but to bridge some of those gaps, it's something that should always be leveraged. Then we get into some of the plan mechanics. So it's kind of deciding on the pay curve, as I like to call it, like where do you start paying, where do you stop paying, what sort of acceleration are you willing to give, right? You got to find out what fits your model and what sort of objective needs to be delivered upon in order for you to accomplish that. I spoke briefly about objectives, which is like just a quota, right? Like the knowing what it is that needs to be accomplished. And then we talk about payment timing. And so like when is the payments go out? When can you afford for them to go out? You kind of need to understand some of your business to dig in on that, right? Like, and what I mean there is when is cash coming in, right? When is revenue recognized? You have to be aware and conscious of those sorts of things in order to develop that, because you want your sort of expense curve to line up with your cash flow and not be in a bind, especially on that first hire. And it's also a point of administration. Like, when are you going to pay? When are you going to do the calculations of pay? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it semi-annually or annually, right? Kind of just deciding and planning for it before the person's coming on board. So those are the components of developing a new plan.